We never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
Mike Renner in the flesh here in the studio, Cincinnati studios, coming off a pretty solid weekend. I was up big in betting this past week.
Oh, yeah?
I know. On the 2-for-1 Drafts Wednesday episode, we do our green line bets in the NFL and NCAA. I told you to hammer our Chanticleers plus 10, plus 11. They end up winning that game outright. I said Ohio State minus 23.5. COVID comes out. That gets down to minus 22. They still cover the number at Michigan State. And I said, you want to sweat? Let's sweat Rex Culpepper and the Syracuse Orange against Notre Dame plus 33.5. They cover that number up big, parlayed all three. You just love to see it. You make money listening to the Wednesday episode of 2-for-1 Drafts. I'm sorry. Do you have a rebuttal? Do you?
No, that was your week. You were hot this week.
It was hot this week. It was also a good weekend. Had some fun. Talked to your girlfriend a bit. Got to meet Hannah again. And she listens to the podcast. And she says we are painting her in a negative light. She says she thinks she sounds controlling, rude. I didn't mean to say any of those things. She's a very nice person, means well. We're working together to get a Christmas gift. She's a good person. I'm going to say that right now. She's a good person.
You're scoring a lot of brownie points here.
She's trash at drinking games, though.
Oh, okay.
That was an absolute atrocity.
No,
you were like helping her win in beer die. It was a hard look for you.
I mean, I was being a good boyfriend, as one does.
The other thing, I have to bring this up on the podcast, for those who think Mike Renner is this bravado, just absolute stud, former Bachelorette contestant, at 11:30 at night on a Tuesday, you're building gingerbread houses with your girlfriend. That's something that we just can't dip into those waters.
One, it was a gingerbread stadium. How great she is. She got me a stadium to build, a football stadium to build instead of a gingerbread house because she knows I love football. But if we're going to go there with you and being girlfriend guy, when you had a girlfriend back in the day, which you all of a sudden, what was this, a year and a half ago, show up to the PFF Christmas party with just a girl, and you never told anyone you had a girlfriend, and we're like, who is this? She's like, I'm Austin's girlfriend. I'm like, what the fuck's going on here? And then I didn't see you for the next year because you turned into the biggest girlfriend guy of all time. I was like, hey, you want to go do something? No, I got a pottery class. I'm going to take professional photos. I never did a pottery class with my girlfriend. There's like a farmer's market that we got to go to. Sorry.
I guess the grass is always greener. And then now that I'm on this side, I'm doubting you. I'm making fun of the gingerbread houses, etc. Yeah. It's fair. The grass is always greener. But Hannah, a great person. Let's go ahead and get into the podcast here. People like the dating stories. I haven't had any good dating stories of late. I'm still on the outside looking in on a good dating story here. We'll get there. Let's start with Greg Williams. Steve Palazzolo, if you listen to the other podcasts on the PFF Podcast Network, you'll listen to Steve Palazzolo and Sam Monson on the NFL podcast. On that podcast, he said, Greg Williams made the right call. Derek Carr was 0 for 6 when blitzed, throwing 20-plus yards downfield. He sent the blitz. It was risky. He didn't say it wasn't risky, but it was the right call. Just didn't work out in that situation. I exploded. I was recording the podcast. I helped them record the podcast in the mornings. I was like, oh my gosh, are you ready to get absolutely murdered on social media? And the murder has commenced. What's your take?
Yeah, I'm sure Greg Williams knew that they were 0 for 6 at that point against the blitz on throws 20 yards downfield. I'm sure that was factoring into his decision. No, all the people saying this is what Greg Williams does. No, this is not what Greg Williams does. If that was the Super Bowl and he's back with the Saints and there's 13 seconds left and they have no timeouts and they have to get a touchdown, not a field goal. People are bringing up the Broncos game where it was a 4th down and he brought a 0 blitz. But all they had to do was get a first down and get in a field goal range with like 40 seconds left. It's a completely different scenario where any pass completed inbounds, game's over. You're not going to have time to go. They had no timeouts. Yes, they had no timeouts. Any pass completed inbounds, that's tackled. The game is over. So, oh, God damn it. My turn to fuck up this pod with my computer sound. So any pass completed inbounds, the game's over. So you basically want to funnel anything into the field of play. You run either a 2 deep safety and you push guys to the sidelines and stay on top of every single route. But even the plays before that, that is not what they were doing. They let Nelson Aguilar deep when they were playing quarters. Like, you tell your safeties nothing behind you. You tell everyone nothing behind you because that's the only way you can lose. You run a 0 blitz, a pass interference down to the goal line. That's how you lose in that situation. So any defensive coordinator at Pop Warner level, high school, whatever, worth a damn, would never call that. And you saw the ESPN stat that said in the situation that they were in, whatever, 2,500 plays have been run over the past 15 years. No one's ever done that. No one's ever brought 7 in a situation like that. So were they trying to tank? Probably not. Like, Greg Williams probably doesn't give a fuck if they actually go 0-16 or whatever. Like, he has no active interest in them getting Trevor Lawrence. What he was doing was not giving a shit if they won either. He was going to just do whatever he wanted to do, and that's why he ended up getting fired. Or maybe he wants to make Adam Gase look bad. I don't know what it is. He's a crazy person. Like, everything we've seen from him, that's what it is. But he was not... That was not Greg Williams being Greg Williams. If they actually wanted to win that game, no one would call that play.
I only have 2 things to add. I know it's a polarized topic, gets everyone fired up.
It's not the right call. It
was not the right call. No, that's obvious. I mean, he got fired. He got fired the next day. If it was the right call, he would not be fired right now. I have only a couple things to add there. One, we didn't even bring up the matchup. Undrafted rookie out of Nebraska, Lamar Jackson, ran a 4.58 at the combine going against Henry Ruggs one-on-one at the line of scrimmage. That was atrocious. 2, I love that after he was fired, I had to bring this up. After he was fired, Ian Rappaport tweets out shortly after that Greg Williams' son is still on the staff, but is expected to depart too. It's just like thinking about like the nepotism in the NFL. It's like, we fired your dad. I don't care how good you are. You're probably out as well. And your son's off the team as well. I don't know. I thought that was funny. But yeah, I hate the people that are saying this was a call from the front office. They made Greg. I do think that it was a boneheaded decision. I don't think it was an actual tank job. I think Greg Williams went way too overly aggressive because he didn't care in the situation, like you said, and then gave up a big touchdown. I don't think it was a call from the front office saying, make sure we get Trevor Lawrence and blow this.
No, that's too much. Like, it's too far-fetched, in my opinion, to do that. It's more just, I think, in that scenario, with the team having gone the way they did this year, Greg Williams said, I could give a fuck about what you guys think or what you want. Like, I want to put an exclamation point on this game instead of going out just with if he would have given up a 35-yard completion and tackled him inbounds, that would not have made Greg Williams, that would not have got the juices flowing for Greg Williams. He would not have felt good about that. He wanted to end it with a sack.
There you go. All right, we're going to jump into one more storyline, then look at the Maxwell and Bednarik Award winners lists. Jalen Hurts came in for Carson Wentz. I wasn't sure if it was real. I was on the sticks once when Jalen Hurts came in for a snap after Carson Wentz was pulled. I thought he was starting. I tweeted out for the main account, Jalen Hurts is in for the Eagles. No, they pulled him back out. This one, he actually was in. They actually benched Carson Wentz for Jalen Hurts, and he played moderately well on 4th and 18, made that touchdown throw to Greg Ward, I thought the nice throw to Jalen Reagor down the sideline. I think that was a long 3rd down as well. That looked good. It sparked something for that team, in my opinion. There was definitely some emotions sparked. They obviously don't come back and win that game. They lose to the Packers 30-16. Don't overreact to this, please. I'm not asking for an overreaction. What was your opinion?
You don't think he's the QB1 in the NFC East like George does?
I don't think he's the quarterback 1 in the NFC East like George says. I'd be more than happy to give that to Colt McCoy at this point before I give it to Jalen Hurts. But what was your opinion of Jalen Hurts in that small sample size, and what should the Eagles do moving forward with Jalen Hurts?
I mean, Carson Wentz is unplayable at this point. Like, he's
got the yips.
The yips. He's got no feel for the pocket. Does not, like, his eyes drop against pressure. He just feels it. It's like that. He's just the guy who's played behind great protection his entire career, and all of a sudden things go bad and he turns them into way worse than they should be. They just is not used to that. He needs to hit reset basically at this point. There's no salvaging this season with him. He is beyond salvaging. He needs an offseason to clear his head or whatever. But that was some of the worst quarterback play I've seen earlier in that game. Like that, the rest of the game leading up to him benching all season long was just not NFL quarterbacking. Mm-hmm. Like, he was not going through his reads. He was not getting to his checkdowns. He was not accurate. Nothing was going well. So that I think Hurts played well enough, and like I said, gave them a spark and adds something different element to that offense in terms of what he can do as a runner. Had 29 yards on the ground in this one. That I'd give him the shot for the rest of the year, give him the reins. Can't hurt his development. Like, it wasn't too fast for him. The game wasn't too big. But at the same time, he wasn't particularly accurate. Like, he did miss 2 wide open throws. The pick was obviously tipped, but he went 5 of 12 on the game. And on 20 dropbacks, like, he himself took 3 sacks, scrambled 5 times. It was not necessarily great either for him in terms of his ability to find open guys. So I'm not going to say he's QB1 of the NFC East. I think it's not going to be great with him in there either. Like, he's not going to come in and look like Justin Herbert. Yeah, like
there's no way he comes in and it's going to be great. Nothing's great in Philadelphia right now, defensively or offensively. My official stance is start Jalen Hurts for the rest of the season. This season is lost. Start him for the rest of the season to see more of what you have in Jalen Hurts. You're not even going to completely see what you have in him. He didn't get a lot of the first team reps this season. He's coming in under fire on a very banged up offense with a defense that plays poorly. But see what you do have in him. Put him in situations where he can gain experience. 2, Carson Wentz is bound for positive regression. This is the worst we've seen Carson Wentz play. His baseline is better than this. Steve Palazzolo has said that. His baseline is better than this. And you are pot committed to Carson Wentz in a lot of ways. Trading him and that contract is not easy. You're going to likely have him as the starter in 2021, but that shouldn't keep you from seeing what you have in Jalen Hurts. You drafted him in the 2nd round for a reason. See what you have in him. If you see some positive things and it becomes more of a competition in 2021, you benefit from that. If you don't, Carson Wentz comes in as a starter and hopefully can see that positive regression early in the 2021 season with a healthy offensive line, with more weapons at wide receiver, Jalen Reagor in year 2, and maybe a defense that knows what they're doing.
Yeah, like there's no reason to keep throwing Wentz out there.
Yep.
It's getting worse, not better. So, yes.
All right, let's jump to the Maxwell Award list. It's the best offensive player in college football. What I'm going to do here, Mike, and this is the official Maxwell list. I know you were on the meeting with... I
was going to say, you're going to say why we're going to this?
Yes.
Because I'm part of the selection committee.
Yes.
Come on. No, I'm like,
that's pretty
it's
sweet.
not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But
I'm also a voter.
It's actually kind of the informalness of kind of how this list is made would blow your mind if you saw it. It's just like there's no set number of semifinalists. We kind of just all decided on the call how many we wanted, who we wanted, and it kind of just, that was it.
I mean, how else would it go? I think it makes sense. But I do think I am a voter, and I'm excited about the list that you did select. I'm looking forward to voting on this list. How I'm going to do this is I'm going to read, you just split it up in the doc for me. I was going to read the quarterbacks in a row, and then I was going to look at the running backs and then the pass catchers on the offensive side.
I just did it. So you got it again.
First reading quarterbacks here. It's Mac Jones of Alabama, Kyle Trask of Florida, Zach Wilson, BYU, Trevor Lawrence of Clemson, Dylan Gabriel, UCF, Sam Howell of UNC, Ian Book of Notre Dame, I don't know why, Justin Fields of Ohio State, De'Aaron King of Miami, Grayson McCall of our Chanticleers, and then Desmond Ridder of Cincinnati sneaking in on the back end here. I think this is Mac Jones and Kyle Trask's award to lose. Both of those guys, I think, are the 2 of the highest graded quarterbacks in college football right now. Trevor Lawrence is up there as well, but he did miss a game. I can't see how you give it to anyone else of those 3.
Yeah, Trevor, I wish, no COVID, he's in that conversation.
Yes.
He's probably at the top of it, but like missing 2 games, having lost one of those games, it's difficult to put him above a guy like Mac Jones who just lights out, start to finish. Yes, it's an easy situation. Yes, he has a ton of talent around him, but about to go undefeated, and he's going to play he's going to put up some ridiculous stats. So yeah, unfortunate for Lawrence in that scenario.
But there's still a ton of great names on this list. Zach Wilson has been a success story here for BYU. Even in that loss to Coastal Carolina, I believe he earned an 88.0 plus PFF passing grade. Sam Howell has played well for UNC. Desmond Ridder is a success story in UC as well. But I think of the quarterbacks, it's a 3-man race between Mac Jones, Kyle Trask, and Trevor Lawrence. With Mac Jones, it's his to lose right now. They're going to go undefeated. They're the number 1 team in the country. He and Devontae Smith have this connection that is absolutely absurd. With Jalen Waddle got out for the season with an ankle injury, Devontae Smith has risen to the occasion. He's going to finish with one of the highest graded seasons we've ever seen from a college football wide receiver. Jumping to the running backs here. And I thought this conversation was interesting. I was overhearing on the selection committee calls behind Eric Eager, who is also on there on the Zoom call. Javonte Williams is a guy we're going to stand for. He's the highest graded running back in the country, the UNC running back. He's forcing missed tackles at an absurd rate. But there's also the usual suspects on this list as well. Breece Hall, Najee Harris of Alabama, and then Travis Etienne of Clemson. Of those backs, if you had to give it to a running back, who are you handing this award to?
That one's tough. Because Etienne has not had a lot of great opportunities. Like, that offensive line is not good. It's kind of there. If you look talking about a weak link on that entire roster, it's that, I mean, you saw how they just got owned in the Notre Dame game in their loss this year. Like, it was difficult for them. They just couldn't move the ball on the ground. There was no space for Etienne to work with. So what he's done as a receiver, he leads all running backs in the country in receiving yards this year. He's the highest graded, running back, has the highest receiving grade of all running backs. Like, he's kind of reinvented himself. That was not his game early in his career at Clemson. Now it is. So he's still productive, still fueling that offense to a degree. But of these guys, I still probably, that was tough. I think Javonte has been, in terms of just pure, it's crazy because Javonte and Etienne, I think, are the two most talented of those. But Javonte and Etienne both disappeared against Notre Dame. They were nothing in that game.
Notre Dame's run D is insane.
Notre Dame's run D is good, but they were absolute non-factors in those games. And when you're non-factors in your biggest game,
no, Travis Etienne was a factor. It was a bad factor.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude,
like when you're non-factors in those games, it's just difficult to me to get on board. To me, I don't think the running back position is going to factor into the finalists, the top three in the Maxwell Award. I would venture to guess.
There are better pass catchers on this list. The three pass catchers we have, and I say pass catchers because one of them is technically a tight end, technically, even though this guy plays more wide receiver than a lot of tight ends I've seen in recent college football history. Devontae Smith, the Alabama wideout that is, like I said, on pace to break PFF records. Kyle Pitts, in the same right, is on pace to break some PFF records at the tight end position. And then Ole Miss slot receiver Elijah Moore, who in the beginning of the season, I had that conversation of scheme production, creating, he's getting open against off coverages and zone. But Elijah Moore, week in and week out, is delivering. And I think I'm not going to shy away from these guys that deliver consistently, regardless of whether it's in the slot or outside, knowing that Justin Jefferson was one of those types coming out and how well he's performed at LSU. Justin Jefferson, a bit of a different prospect, bigger, whatever it may be. But of those three, I think Devontae Smith would be the guy that you'd have to have the conversation for. But if you're going to give it to Devontae Smith, you probably might as well give it to Mac Jones, the quarterback position. And Kyle Pitts is an absolute monster playing for Florida right now. He could do whatever they want. He plays in the slot, he plays out wide, he plays in line, and continues to have success. No one has answers for him. I really like my comp, Darren Waller. Darren Waller, if you watch this game against the New York Jets, was literally unguardable. They put Bryce Hall on him, Marcus May, Javelin Guidry, the undrafted Utah safety. No one could guard him in man coverage. And I think Kyle Pitts is in a similar boat, similar frame, athletes that can really make moves after the catch.
Give yourself a little more credit for that comp. You really like your comp. I get it.
I think it's a good comp.
I will say, I think of any of the non-quarterbacks could factor in Devontae Smith. Could. He leads NCAA in receiving yards, over 1,300 yards in 9 games, 4.45 yards per route. But on my list, if I was doing it right now, I would not factor him in. The biggest thing kind of to me is that when Jalen Waddle was on that roster too, Jalen Waddle was the clear number one. Outproduced him in all 3 games that he was there. It's like you were the second best receiver on your own team when the other guy was healthy. That shouldn't take away from it, but just kind of in my eyes, I'm like, maybe just that Alabama offense is a little too much for teams at this point.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it's a fair battle there. Devontae Smith, though, is rising up boards.
Yeah.
I mean, he's producing so consistently. I mean, it'd be hard to think this guy doesn't make it inside, the first 25 picks come April.
So then who would be your finalists for the Maxwell?
My finalists for the Maxwell, in order, would be Mac Jones, Kyle Trask, and then Trevor Lawrence. I'm not giving it to a running back or a pass catcher. It's the best quarterback of those 3, and I think Mac Jones has the lead right now, and if he continues to have the season he does, goes undefeated, wins the championship, I mean, this is obvious.
I had a different list, and I'm going to transition after thinking about it a little more. I had Zach Wilson, but now I'm going to go Mac Jones, Kyle Trask, and Trevor Lawrence as well. I think that is the clear top tier.
I mean, Zach Wilson just lost to
Chanticleers. And even though he didn't play poorly in the game, he didn't rise to the occasion. Trevor Lawrence would rise to the occasion if he would have not had COVID.
DJ Uiagalelei rises to the occasion against the Chanticleers. Okay, that was a big letdown spot for our guy Zach Wilson of BYU. All right, let's jump to the defense side of the ball now. The Bednarik Award list. This one, there's a ton of names here.
So it's tough because defense has been scarce in college football. Pretty much the only people playing defense are like group of 5 teams are the only ones really playing defense nowadays. It seems. I mean, have actual good defenses.
All right, I'm just going to read through here. We got Rashad Weaver, edge defender Pitt, Teron Jackson, Patrick Jones, Jalen Phillips, Zaven Collins of Tulsa.
Some schools for these guys. Teron Jackson, Coastal Carolina. Patrick Jones, Pitt. Jalen Phillips, Miami.
Zaven Collins, Tulsa. Joseph Asai, Texas. Nick Bolton, the linebacker for Missouri. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah of Notre Dame. Patrick Surtain of Alabama. Myjai Sanders, who on the call I know you stand for. The Cincinnati edge defender, making Queen City proud. Myjai Sanders. Azeez Ojulari of Georgia. John Radigan, who is Maxwell Selection Committee is a big fan of this guy. Yeah. The Army linebacker, John Radigan. Justin Rice. I don't even know what school Justin Rice goes to.
Justin Rice goes to Fresno State.
That's right. No, he just
transferred from Fresno State to Arkansas State. Excuse me.
Arkansas State. Sherman Jean Charles. Kyle Hamilton of Notre Dame. Richie Grant.
Appalachian State from
Richie Grant of UCF. Trayvon Moore of TCU. And then Davion Nixon of Iowa. See, I don't even know some of these guys. So I feel terrible.
This is a statistic-driven award and a narrative-driven award. So if you're having you're a guy like John Radigan and you're playing well at Army and they have a good defense this year, you'll get in. Even though John Radigan,
he's one of the highest graded linebackers.
Maybe
he's also the troops.
NFL prospect. Yeah. So we support the troops at the Bednarik Award.
Well, of these guys, I think if you were going to give it to one, my favorite on this one is Zaven Collins of Tulsa. Talk about narrative-driven. We've already had this conversation before. He's from Hominy, Oklahoma, has fewer people in the city than my high school had in California, and he's just been an absolute monster for Tulsa. Had that game-winning interception in OT. I mean, you have those kind of simple statistics on your arsenal. I think Zaven Collins, the Tulsa linebacker, some people are mocking him in the first round. I'm not there yet. I'm not there for Zaven Collins in the first round just yet.
But get on board in the right scheme.
I do think Zaven Collins is a really, really talented linebacker and has easily been the best football player in every game Tulsa's played. Not on his side. On every game Tulsa's played, he's been that best football player.
Yeah, I think he has to be a finalist just with how he's played this year. Obviously, this weekend's game against Cincinnati in the championship of the Conference USA, big for his draft stock, for his hopes of winning the Bednarik Award. But I think you got to lean the Notre Dame guys in this. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Kyle Hamilton, best defense in the country. You got to give it to one of them, right?
I don't think so. I
think so.
I think I would still lean Zaven Collins, but I could see Notre Dame simply because it's narrative driven. America loves Notre Dame. I mean, it's on NBC. Their home games are on NBC. Everyone watches Notre Dame. I could see Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah making this list. I think right now my finalist of these guys is Zaven Collins, Patrick Surtain, the Alabama outside corner, and then just because I hate the Golden Domers and all that they represent, I went Azeez Ojulari, who has had a really, really big season for Georgia and has played well. Massive riser, massive improvement year over year.
No, that's just the wrong take. I disagree, but I will say Patrick Surtain does deserve some love. Alabama.
They just don't throw at him.
Yeah, they don't throw at him. 14 catches allowed, 156 yards all year on 36 targets. That's pretty damn good. Less than 5 yards a target there. And then just over 4 yards target. And then a pick, 6 pass breakups. Like, he's been pretty much as advertised there.
Yep. All right. Shall we jump into the weekly review here? I like when we start the podcast and we don't do a ton of instant review. Single sample review here is not what we need.
We're not a small sample size company. So focusing on the small sample size is we're trying to get away from.
Yeah, it's like calling Jalen Hurts the best quarterback in the NFC East after just a couple throws. Well, easy there. Shots fired. Before we jump into that, let's go ahead and take a quick break. Rolling Rooks. We named this segment after Rolling Rocks, which if you're unfamiliar with those beers, congratulations.
Don't familiarize yourself.
You're welcome. I mean, you're in a really good spot in life. Rolling Rocks are like an absolute garbage trash beer. I feel like it's a common dating question. What's your favorite go-to trash beer? You've got me on to Miller Lights. I used to be a Coors Light guy, a Bud Light guy. Miller Lights is my new trash beer, but I also don't hate PBRs.
Calling me a trash beer.
You're going to disrespect Natty Light?
Natty Light's trash. Mike, I can't.
I'm not. I was a Keystone. Everyone, it's either Keystone or Natty in college. I was a Keystone guy.
Keystone?
Yeah, Keystone. It's smoother.
All right, let's jump into our Rolling Rooks here. Rolling Rocks, Rolling Rooks. Andrew Thomas of Georgia actually had like an insane game. He was the highest graded rookie on the offensive side of the ball this past week. Absolute monster in the run game. He was playing with confidence.
OT1, we were never wrong.
But honestly, he was playing with confidence in the run game I haven't seen yet. I mean, he was like bullying kids against Seattle. I was super excited when he was going to the second level, making plays that sprung Wayne Gallman loose a handful of times and kept a clean sheet in pass protection.
A corner has been turned. Like, it is very evident if you go and watch the tape. Like, he looks like a different player than he did early on in the season. Looks far more comfortable. Someone asked me this in the mailbag last week. If there's some examples on tape that I put in there, to go and watch it if you have, or go read that, watch it if you haven't. But the biggest thing is just his punch timing and and we kind of said it when we were talking about his struggles. He was so over anxious. He was flying out of his stance, trying to get depth, and then he was shooting his hands quickly, trying to get that punch in. Like, he just was so overhyped, just like I said, over anxious. And now you see far more patient. The timing, the control he's playing with far different from early on in the season. And he was always a freak athlete. He was incredibly powerful at 6'5", 320. Like, the physical tools were right up there with all the other guys, all those other elite tackles in this draft class. And I think you're finally seeing that. Yes, he's going up against Seattle in a pretty shitty pass rush, pretty shitty defensive line. Like, he's going up against a fellow rookie, Alton Robinson, who, like, he's going up against a guy.
He also gave Jaron Reed the business.
Yeah, he was giving Jaron Reed the business, but like, he took Alton Robinson 5 yards off the ball on a base block. That one-on-one does not happen a lot. You're seeing that he really was, like, all those guys at the top were special athletes, and so, like, he was in that conversation despite playing like ass early in the season. I think the past 5 games have been his highest 5 pass blocking games so far on the season. A corner has been turned with Andrew Thomas. Great game for him this week. You
just love to see that. Jumping to, I don't know if a corner has been turned for him, but this was really good tape for Cameron Dantzler.
Yeah.
Outside cornerback for Minnesota. In this game, I think he stayed in phase a ton here. I also thought, so he only allowed 1 reception for 3 yards in this game, but what doesn't get counted in that is he did give up a 2-point conversion to Colin Johnson. I talked to Ben Stockwell about it. That's not going to show up because those don't show up in normal box score stats. If you allow a pressure or a touchdown or, I guess, a conversion in those situations, those are technically no plays, and they don't get counted into your box score. So we did allow that, but looked really good against Chark. And the strip of Chris Conley was fantastic. A really, really good strip for him. But I have a funny story with that. Eric Eager is a degenerate bettor.
Yeah.
Eric Eager was betting hard the Jacksonville Jaguars to cover that number against Minnesota. And Eric, when he's sweating his bets, has the funniest takes because he always leans the way of his bet. And he's like, Chris Conley never had control. I was like, dude, that was the clearest fumble I've ever seen.
It turns into just like pure
it's so
unobjective.
funny. So like, we'll always make jokes upstairs when we're watching the games. Like, was that OPI? I had to have been OPI. It's like, dude, it's so funny. But yeah, that strip of Conley was also really good.
The needle, one of the best stat lines, one of the best nicknames first, and then one of the best stat lines of any cornerback all season. 1 of 7 targets, 3 yards, a pick, forced fumble recovery.
And the pick was dope too. It came down on that pretty nicely.
Like, he stole it away from him. Might as well have been like a forced fumble. Like, he just took the ball. So yeah, Cameron Dantzler. I was on Matthew Collar's show, one of the great Vikings writers earlier this season. He's like, what do you want to see? Obviously, Gladney and Dantzler were struggling. What do you want to see from rookie corner to like feel good about them? I said, you want to see plays like on the ball. If a guy's making plays on the ball consistently early on in his career, that means he's at least seeing the game right sometimes. Like, he's at least like close, and then that'll, I think, snowball as the years go on. So a guy like Cameron Dantzler having a game like this, seeing plays like he had his first pass breakup the week before, a pick this week, seeing highlights like that, like, I think that's what you want to feel comfortable. If he makes these plays towards the end of the season, I'm feeling far more comfortable going into 2021 with him as a starter than if he just kind of has never done much in terms of ball production. Someone
I do think is turning the corner is the next guy on this list, and it's running back Jonathan Taylor. Did he listen
to our pod when we said he was
exactly?
Washed?
You had that take that I'd start to be worried about Jonathan Taylor. And in the 2 games since then, he's had over 90 rushing yards in both games. He's had 6 runs of 10+ yards and forced 9 missed tackles. He has 17 on the year, and he's forced 9 in the past 2 games.
I know he's broken more since the 2 games since that he did in the previous 10 games before I said that.
And I think it comes back to the same stuff that we're talking about with Dantzler and Thomas. He's playing with more confidence. And when you have the skill set of a Taylor, a Dantzler, a Thomas, and you start to play with confidence in your rookie season, you start to have games like these. And I think that comfortability is not just flipping the switch. Gaining confidence and comfortability in the NFL comes with really good coaching, development, all that type of stuff, tape study, all of that. I think Jonathan Taylor, you're seeing exactly that. And the Colts are reaping the benefits here. They're going to be in the playoffs. They got a big game against the Las Vegas Raiders upcoming here. They win that game, their chances go up. Steve Kornacki is going to be all about it. That segment, by the way, fantastic. Fueled by PFF's playoff predictions model.
He brought us up.
Yep. Eric Eager and George Torrey worked hard on that right before the preview and halftime show with Steve Kornacki. But Jonathan Taylor looking very good of late.
Yeah, this is what we expected. When you're going up against a bad run defense like the Texans, and he has some room to work, you expect big plays and consistently to find those holes. And that's what he did this past weekend. So,
all right, 2 minute names here. Let's move quickly. Justin Jefferson beat the brakes off Luke Barku, former San Diego State corner. There was a handful of reps where Barku was in phase and just got beat at the catch point, which is not great. But then there was that one rep where it was a really good play design, but also really good execution from Jefferson, where he does the in-breaking route and then cuts back outside on the touchdown. Barku never had a chance. the outside leverage he had, all that stuff with Jefferson, the head nods, the speed variation, like he is creating separation at outside receiver better than we saw at LSU in 2018 and 2019.
Yeah.
And it is, he eats cushion really well. I love his work against off coverage. When he's playing guys physically, you don't see that separation at times. But against off coverage, he is moving people with his head, moving people with speed variation. And it's why he's going to probably finish this year with the second best rookie receiving grade we've ever seen from a rookie receiver since Odell Beckham Jr. in 2014.
Yeah.
That's how good Justin Jefferson has been.
Yeah, and Jefferson through 12 games. So Odell obviously started the season hurt. I think missed the first 4 games that year. 12 games is 100 more yards than anyone we've seen through his first 12 games since we started grading 06. So it's not just like, oh, he's good for a rookie. It's like, oh, he's good for the entire NFL.
Yeah, some people are saying all-pro worthy. Maybe. Pro Bowl for sure.
Yeah, Pro Bowl
driven
sure.
by fan.
All pros, what, you get 2 or 3 wide receivers in the All-Pro? It's like, is he Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill? You're going to take him over that?
Absolutely not.
I don't think so.
All right, last guy, and I'm glad you brought this guy up because he had some fantastic reps against the Chargers offensive line. Josh Uche, the former Michigan edge defender, now playing kind of that hybrid role for the New England Patriots defense. There's one of the first plays that he has a lot of success on, beats the left tackle, beats the brakes off him on the outside move. And then, go ahead.
I was going to say, this has to come with caveat that left tackle was Storm Norton.
Yeah, he also got benched in that game.
It's Storm Norton's like a UDFA out of Toledo a few years ago. It was just like...
It was still hilarious tape.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, he beats Storm Norton, and I think Storm Norton ends up getting benched in that game because another left tackle came in when I was watching the outside too. There's another rep where Forrest Lamp has no idea what he's doing. It doesn't look like he understands like the protection.
Forrest Lamp.
Like he just puts one hand on him, but is looking for someone else. But there's no linebacker over his gap. Yeah. And then Josh Uche makes another play on Justin Herbert.
Yeah, I mean the Chargers O-line was a mess, but Uche, I mean he had some one-on-one wins, and he's good for that defense because of what he can do on stunts. Like they were stunting them and slanting them to death in that game. Just
Goodwill stunting. You like that?
It was all right. Don't ever say it again, though. But he's quick to get home, and he has that bend and that quickness. And yes, he's undersized. He's not going to be your pure one-on-one guy all the time. But like I said, in that defense, that's what they look for. And he got home on, I think, 2 stunts in that game. So,
Yeah, it looks good. The speed and the athleticism you see very, very quickly with Josh Uche. Even on stunts and stuff where you're kind of you're putting yourself in a more advantageous situation than a pure one-on-one, but you're seeing him get home because he has that speed. Better than Kayla Chason, who we liked a lot for his stunting ability and his athleticism. Buddy, Josh Uche is hitting home really nicely against that Chargers offensive line. I would encourage everyone to go back and watch that tape. It was fun. Prospect performances, some of the best ones from this past week. Start me off with Jack Anderson, the right guard for Texas Tech.
Yeah, so he wasn't really on my radar, but at the next day, he declared for the NFL draft. So I was like, oh, a guard's declaring early for the NFL draft. Let's go back and watch this guy. I liked what I saw. He's going up against Kansas, obviously. Not the greatest defensive line. You're going to have to, he obviously graded out really well against Kansas, but he's graded out well all season long. And actually, he's a 4-year starter. He's graded out well in pass protection for Texas Tech for 4 years now. So he's been pretty solid in that regard. I think he's got that nastiness you like at guard. Like he's going to get called for his fair share of holding penalties at the next level. He just would not let guys go. But this season, only allowed 7 total pressures on 459 pass blocking snaps for Texas Tech. I think he's kind of, from having gone back and watched a good deal of his tape now, probably a fringe day 2 guy. But I liked what I saw from him at this point. So him declaring early, like that's it. He's just another name to watch in what I think is a pretty solid interior offensive line class.
Safety Trayvon Moehrig, the TCU safety that you were really high on going into this year. Both TCU safeties, Trayvon Moehrig and Ardarius Washington. Moehrig is just making big plays in big-time moments. And when you have those moments at safety, he earned one of the highest coverage grades on the week this past week. Had that big, deep, and towards the right pylon where he outstretches to make the PBU. That was the more impressive play than the pick on the end line, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The pick on the end line was off a batted pass from Ardarius Washington. But he's making plays all day long in that TCU defense. They really do. He does a lot of creative things there and has the speed and athleticism to hit home and some of that vision head start, that anticipatory movement that I'm a huge fan of.
That's banned on the podcast, that term. You know this. But yeah, this past week, going up against Oklahoma State, the play you're talking about is a corner route where he's playing quarters coverage, and he just gets a free release on a corner route against him, which is a bad situation to be in as a safety. You need a bump when a guy's come from the slot.
So true.
You need some sort of, you need someone to slow him down. a guy coming with a free release, bearing down on you on the slot means he can go anywhere in that coverage. He can go post, he can go straight seam, he can go corner route, and you have to be able to guard all of those. That is a tough place to be in, and he got a corner route and was right there stride for stride with it. That's what you love to see. He has 8 pass breakups this year, leads all safeties in college football. 12 pass breakups last year, led all safeties in college football. He's 6'2", 202. He made Bruce Feldman's freaks list. I think this guy is probably going to end up like mid-first round, mid-round one. I think the NFL is going to see him that highly because of the physical tools, just because you flip on this tape and he's making plays week after week. Very solid tackler. And has the size, the length that you want at that position to be a versatile type safety. Now, they play a lot of split field stuff there. Like, you haven't seen him in a super diverse role. But, yeah, I think this guy is going to be, compared to, like, safeties in recent memory that have gone round one, I think he's going to be right up there with them. Nice, man. That's awesome.
Defensive interior for Alabama, Christian Barmore, a guy we highlighted as a breakout candidate this year, has had an up and upper season. He hasn't been bad this year, but he's had like some really good games, but then some fantastic games like this past week. I think he had the highest PFF pass rushing grade of any defensive player with more than 20 pass rush snaps on the week. Just tearing it up on the interior for Alabama. That team is it's stacked. Yeah. Top to bottom, it's got so much talent every single year, and Barmore's just next in line.
Yeah, so they're not running him into the ground too much. Like, he hasn't played
unlike
a ton
previous
of snaps.
years.
Yeah, like the 296 snaps, like they're blowing teams out, and he's not playing the whole second half in a lot of games. So, but he has a higher grade pass rushing grade this year, 89.6. He has been impactful this past week against LSU. 4 pressures, 91.2 pass rushing grade. And another thing they're doing a lot of at Alabama this year, because I think they know they don't have the talent to win one-on-one across the board like they maybe have had in recent years, with like a bunch of NFLers on the edge and whatnot. They're stunting, slanting. They're doing a lot more games up front. So he's not getting as many one-on-ones to win. But I think when he does, you still see it. Like, he went one-on-one against a tackle off the edge this week, and he won. He has that just that versatile skill set at 6'5", 310. I think he's pretty clearly at this point DT1, because it's a very weak defensive tackle class. Mm-hmm. Like,
Marvin Wilson did not take that step.
He might be the only first rounder in this entire defensive tackle class. So
wow.
But I do think he still ends up in the first round if he declares. He's got that level of physical tools. And he's going to be a guy who I think once you get to the playoff, I think you're going to see him. Like, he's going to be that guy making the splash plays for them.
This is a little bit of a pivot, but it brought,
And he's not going to be coming off the field.
For whatever reason, Barmore winning at tackle or against tackle. Cleveland Ferrell actually had a really good game for the Raiders this past week. Went up against Mekhi Becton, beat him for a strip sack, then had on a stunt.
Second-year guys. You can't give up.
What? Second-year guys. I can't give up.
You love bringing them up.
Guys. No, but I was watching Mekhi Becton, and he had a good game as a run blocker, was dominating as a run blocker, but it was one of his lowest-ranked pass blocking grades. And I wanted to see, against the Raiders, who was making plays. And Cleveland Ferrell was actually getting it in there. So good kudos to Cleveland Ferrell improving in his second year. Last segment of the Monday podcast here, it's going to be the fake ID segment, bringing up Ohio State's Zach Harrison. Talk to me.
He's a dude. I mean, he's like 6'5", 265. Basically just the next in line for Ohio State of that freaky edge rusher. Actually, 6'6" listed. He's a sophomore this year. He's already got a 88.5 overall grade. Against Michigan State this past week, 4 pressures. Just like expect him in the top 10 next year, basically.
What's your opinion of Haskell Garrett?
I haven't watched enough of
him. Dude, I think he's legit. I mean, he pops up on tape a lot of the time when I'm watching Ohio State because I bet them all the time. I do think that he is making some plays similar to what we saw from Draymond Jones on the interior for Ohio State, winning quickly at the line of scrimmage.
I want to go to OSU this weekend for the game.
Huh?
OSU this weekend for the game.
You want to go?
Should we?
I don't hate it.
Should we take 2-for-1 draft? Should we do a pod from
2-for-1 drafts from Columbus?
Yeah.
I don't hate it, man. I don't hate it. Quinn, what's your thoughts?
So I actually have a friend who has like a tailgate bus up in Columbus.
Should we?
Let's get the cameras. We'll text George. We'll say, hey, George, we're taking a business trip.
On the road.
Business trip, and we'll see how it goes. No,
I already got COVID. I can't get it again.
You already got COVID. You can't get it again. And I think you can be immune adjacent. I think that's I saw.
I'll stand in front of you no matter where we go.
What?
I'll stand in front of you.
Perfect. Perfect. Can't lose. Well, that's going to do it for the Monday episode of 2-for-1 Drafts. Make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast wherever you find your podcast. Until next time, Austin Gayle, Mike Renner, 2-for-1 Drafts.
You want to get rid of me and get back to more great PFF YouTube content? All you have to do is push that button right there and subscribe. Thanks for watching.